Okay, good evening. My name is Lucy Wilson Kerr. I'm the founder and CEO for the Liberian View. This is the Liberian View Discourse. This is our 22nd episode, and we're going to be discussing today Women, the Forgotten Leaders, in celebration of the International Women's Day. So I'm going to give the opportunity to my beautiful audience, empowered women who have taken the time to come here this afternoon to discuss women, the forgotten leaders, because we know that women leadership has one way or the other been forgotten for different reasons. So today we're going to let you know some of the reasons. Look at it. We're going to be looking at some of the historical perspective, cultural, economic, political, gender, race. We're going to look at everything, and our audience, we want to ask you to please put your questions in the chat. Um, Check us on YouTube, on Facebook, and we'll be there to answer all your questions. Because of your questions, we develop different topics when it comes to empowering women. So please, we love your questions. We ask you to please log on Facebook and YouTube and ask your questions, and it will be answered. But before we go ahead with the discussion, I'm going to start with one of our youngest speaker. So just tell us briefly who she is, and then we're going to move on to our own sister Yacindy Majo, and then one of our guest speaker and one of the panelists. We're going to be talking to Dr. Easy.
The younger speaker, that would be me.
Yeah, that would be you, Christine.
So good evening. Very excited to be here. Formerly, I'm Dr. Christine Kobena. By training, I'm a pharmacist who transitions into an IT role. So I serve as a Scrum Master for a pharmaceutical company. But outside of that, really my passion is in events planning and organizing. And I serve as pageant director for Miss Africa USA, which is it's a beauty pageant, yes, but really a platform that unites a multifaceted of women who have goals, ambitions, and just need a little bit of fine tuning and coaching to take those goals and bring them to reality. And also another big aspect of our pageant is into the cultural exposition of the different African countries that come together and just make the community more aware. So I'm very excited to be here. I wear multiple hats, and I can't wait to see where this conversation goes. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go to Miss Yacindy to introduce herself.
Okay, so hello everyone, and it's great to see everyone here. I look forward to learning from the youngest on the platform because she belonged to what forward per se. My kids will say, "Mommy, you don't understand." She's an American, she's African, so when she gets home, literally she's African at home, and she have her peers that she have to relate to, and then the word to face. But my name is Yacindy Martin Peye. I am an advocate. I pride myself on that. Done that for 40 years. I give voice where otherwise women will not have the voice to speak. I stand up for victims and survivors. I am also a survivor of the Civil War in Liberia. I don't consider myself a victim. I did at one point, but I consider myself a survivor. So I give voice to others who do not have the strength at this point or at the time to speak up or to stand up and advocate for themselves. So I advocate for them. But professionally, I'm a professional educator. But again, I pride myself when speaking for the downtrodden or those who are not yet ready to speak up or to stand up. I look forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we just moved to Marjo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Maybe for some people this early afternoon, for some people it's later, to some people maybe it's at night worldwide. Don't know, but hello, everybody. My name is Mario White. I'm retired registered nurse. Next to it, I studied community healthcare, and I have a master's degree in public healthcare. Worldwide, I worked in medical programs I did community healthcare programs. I came in touch with human rights violations. I'm doing programs in that worldwide now. Also, I have programs in women empowerment, and also for people personally doing a lifestyle coaching. I worked in Yemen, in Indonesia. I worked in Uganda, the Netherlands, the USA, and also in West Africa. And I worked in Guinea-Bissau, and I work a lot with people from Liberia, and I worked with people from Gabon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Marja. Thank you. So we'll turn it over to Dr. Easy, who she's going to introduce herself, and then we're going to start the discussion. The floor is yours, Dr. Easy.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're well. My name is Dr. Ugoji Adama Eze. I'm an international lawyer and part of civil society of the United Nations. I basically focus mainly on women's and children's rights from an international perspective, and more particularly for women and children in conflict zones. Thank you so much, Lucy, for giving me the opportunity to participate in this panel discussion. I look forward to the discussion, and I do hope we'll have happy deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this is all in celebrating the International Women's Day. And if you can look at our platform, indeed, we are international, and we're representing women all over the world. Today, our topic, as you can read, women, the forgotten leaders. Are we forgotten based on ourselves, or are we forgotten based on the fact that based on historical, cultural, ethnicity reasons? So these women on this floor, on this platform, are going to deliberate on some of these issues. And I'm hoping that at the end of this particular discussion, we'll be able to promote a mindset that indeed women are leaders and they are not forgotten. And if they are, we want to bring them to light today so we can understand and our children can know that indeed women are here and we have some good leaders who have set a lot of good examples, but there are lots and lots of challenges, reason why they, one way or the other, have been forgotten. So as we move on, I'm first going to ask Dr. Izzy to start the discussion. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Lucy, and again, a huge welcome. And thank you for inviting me to speak on women, the forgotten leaders, accentuating the historical, cultural, economic, educational, and developmental perspectives, detailing the importance, types, and responsibilities of women leaders. I thank you. As world leaders continue to strategize on how to build back better for the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is indeed imperative that we do not let short-term post-pandemic measures prevent us from addressing the important aspect of women leaders, more particularly those who are forgotten. I'd like to first and foremost come in from an international and global perspective. I'll ask the leading question would need to be asked. We take the point from the 4 important qualities which one should aspire for women leaders. It begs the questions: when it comes to leadership, does gender matter? Is there a difference between women leaders and men who lead? If so, what are the unique qualities being leadership that the most effective women leaders possess? And are they unique to women? I'd go as far as saying that women leaders, one of the qualities of a good woman leader, that they're more pervasive than their male counterparts. When feeling the sting of rejection, women leaders learn from adversity and carry on with it with an "I'll show you" attitude. Women leaders demonstrate an inclusive team building, leadership style of problem solving and decision making. Women leaders are more likely to ignore rules and take risks. This evidence that the leadership style of women in power is not simply unique, but possibly at odds with what men practice. It begs the questions: do these qualities have value in the marketplace? Is this type of leadership welcomed by society and by the public and private sector? Domination as a leadership style is becoming less and less possible. From a global and cultural effectiveness, if I may take it from the United States, is indeed brimming with women qualified to fill leadership positions. In the developing countries, this is not so. We then need to show that what are the barriers that women face in leadership positions. There are several barriers from the historical, societal perspective, which outdated norms that still indeed exist, that leaders use as excuses not to consider women. If I may quote, these biases include women being care providers, myths like women lead with feeling and not with logic, and other outdated thoughts which men tend to, to advocate for. Women of color, sadly, are less likely to say their organizations let them thrive. They tend to lack professional development at work, which is indeed required to advance. For women who have reached the top, it seems to be that it is lonely at the top for female leaders. Women face structural barriers, have little to no access to established professional networks. Women are often not invited to interact in social activities where they can surround themselves with a network of people that can help them advance. There are 7 reasons why we need more women in leadership roles to ensure that there's equity at the table. Firstly, women bring fresh perspectives. Women lead more effectively. Women are more empathetic. Women are better communicators, and women tend to handle crisis better. And women leaders can indeed help bridge the gender pay gap. And finally, women make amazing mentors. In wrapping up, women leaders are indeed a requirement of the 21st century. Organizations must empower women with leadership roles to be more productive and show their latent potential, increase in workplace diversity, because it is indeed a challenging undertaking that will require the support and participation of everyone in the company. And finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all the talented, beautiful, amazing women out there a very happy International Women's Day. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Izzy. I just want to have a little follow-up question before we can move to the next speaker. I think you stated, if I can state you rightly, that the developing world, when it comes to women leadership, is is kind of still lacking. Can you give us some example and maybe some of the things that you think developing countries can do to help at least bring up the women leadership?
I think thank you so much for that question. I think from the perspective of science, technology, and innovation in developing worlds, there's indeed a gap as opposed to developing the developed world. As a direct result of that, you see that this gender gap is leaving women in the developing world behind. It begs the question, how can we support these countries, if I may put it diplomatically, in special situations to better adapt to cope with the gender gaps, to ensure that in line with the United Nations 2030 agenda, that no one is left behind? And how can we limit the consequences of inequalities and prevent the potential for deterioration of both women and girls in developing world. There appears to be like a seesaw. There's a great imbalance between the developed world and the developing world. If it is leveled out, women in the developing world countries will be able to rise up to meet with their counterparts in the developed world.
So then how can we create this mindset to promote leadership for change, especially when it comes to leadership for women in the developing world,
Uh,
specifically Africa?
okay, specifically Africa, I think we need to ensure that they are part of the digital world. By the digital world, I mean in terms of science, technology, and innovation. We live in a digital age, and I'm afraid to say that women in the developing countries are being left behind. We need to strike this balance. There needs to be more awareness and more capitalization to ensure that they catch up with, if I may say so, the fourth industrial revolution and also green technology.
Before we move to the next speaker, and this is just for all of us to just ponder on. Yesterday, I was opportune to be part of the discussion, the planning of the Miss Africa, and which Dr. Christine served as the pageant director. And I met some other Africans, that I've really not met if I didn't go to that meeting. And she's from Angola, and we were talking about. So me, I think it's a shame that we are here and we don't even have that international group that we can, reach out to one another. And I really want to take this time to thank Lady Kate, who opened some WhatsApp and has a lot of other international women a part of that. And I'm going to talk to her, and I'm glad Dr. Christine is here, so that we can have you all being a part of, because we have a lot to share. And if we're in Africa or in Europe, we're far apart, but we're all either in England or right in the United States, Canada. But we've never I know that there's some international high level women meeting going on somewhere. But how can we start such discussion? Because you are empowered, you all on this platform, I can say you are empowered one way or the other. But we're not even connected. So when I'm looking at the fact that women leadership has been forgotten, don't you think one way or the other we need to really look at ourselves first? Look at yourself. And what have you done to empower someone else? I know you all have spoken to other meetings, but at least I got to know Dr. Izzy from through Dorina White. And based on this discussion we are bringing, we're really connecting, collaborating with one another. I think this is excellent. And I'm hoping that you on this platform, not only having this discussion and then forget about one another, but how can we better engage one another? Because we will be forgotten if we cannot come together and network and show that we're here. Because without your voice, if you can't say anything, you can't do anything, you cannot be heard. So what do you think about that, Dr. Izzy?
I think we need to articulate, as you say, thank you so much for the question. We need to articulate solutions to the effect of this gap that does exist. As I said, for women and girls in the developing countries, and also those that are in vulnerable situations. Yet we're fortunate enough that we're here in the United States, and we have all the opportunities that exist. But at the same time, we shouldn't forget our sisters and our daughters in developing countries. We shouldn't just sit here and feel we're fortunate. We should go out of our way to engage with them, to make them aware of what is happening, particularly at the United Nations. This is Women's Month. Mm-hmm. This is the Commission on the Status of Women. We should be in a situation where we report back to them what exactly is happening. We live in a time of tremendous and groundbreaking technological, scientific breakthroughs, but we must ensure that we pass it on, we pass that knowledge or make awareness of what is happening to women and girls in developing countries. I'm not just saying specifically to Africa, but other developing countries in Asia and the Middle East. We should not keep that knowledge to ourselves. We should be in a position where we share it.
Okay, so I want to say thank you. As we're just going to move, we're going to come back to you with questions. I'm going to be checking to see whether I have questions from our technicians, and then I will be able to ask the question. I mean, at least forward the questions, and any one of you can answer. But having said that, we'll move quickly. We want to really, really hear from Marjo, what she has to share when it comes to women, the forgotten leaders. And then from there, we'll move to Yesenia. From Yesenia, then we'll come to our own, the youngest speaker today, Dr. Christine.
I think it still stays an already for me lifelong discussion about women in leadership. And you know what? For me, I'm speaking from my heart, and I think that's very important that more people do that. Of course, there are a lot of studies, there's a lot of things on paper. However, there's always a question: what is leadership? What is management? There's already a big difference. I know very great leaders who are bad managers, who even don't know what they are doing. They need a manager next to them. And who's the manager next to them? Is most of the time a very well organized lady. I think it's also important because what I see happening is that in a lot of positions, as a leader, they are asking for, they prefer a female person as their leader. However, they forget to look after the qualities that the one is who is applying for a position. I think it's always a balance that you can't say, hey, we have too many men in leading positions or too many women in leading positions. In my opinion, as long as we have professions that are typical seen as men's jobs or women jobs, I think that leadership forgotten for women, what I don't think it is, because look in the USA, what a great leaders there are, and they are women, but also great leaders who are men. So, it depends. It is difficult to say if they are forgotten the woman. When you look in Africa, I met a lot of women who had great leadership positions, and not everyone is going to be president. Sometimes I'm coming in touch with people, and then I say, what is your real goal? And then they are saying, I want to be a president. Why? We can't be a president, all of us. Then the world is going to collapse. And as long as we don't see that all professions are necessary and every profession is important, I think that women feel always the one who is the underdog. And I think we need to get out of that we are an underdog. And I think that is much more important to work on first than that everybody in the leadership needs to be a woman. Those are a little bit my thoughts, which are going through me when I hear about this without any big thing. I think everybody is necessary in the positions where they are. and see at the qualities that a person has. When I look, for example, in my own environment, I had friends in leaderships, women friends, but I had also friends of myself who were technicians, who were plumber, who were I don't know what, but a truck driver, and they were all women in what they are calling men's positions. And they were also great leaders, because what happened after that, they were asked to do positions more in the company to do next to it. What happened? They were really unhappy in that position, because the thing that they loved to do was driving their truck, or doing the plumbing, or doing the nursing, or doing being a teacher. So I think I don't know if women are really the forgotten leaders. I don't know if that is really the truth. That's my opinion.
Are
I
you
can't
speaking
hear.
on mic? On mute, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marjo, for that. I was just one. I mean, the question to me is, I was just thinking, do you 20, 30 years ago, did you have women who are truck drivers, who are technicians or builders? And if I am not forgotten that I have certain skill set to do a particular job, any job, and if I applied myself and I have the skill set to do it, and I'm labeled like that's a man's job, do you think that's a job, a specific job should be there to say this is a man's job? In Africa, there a specific job because that's the culture. And when I'm looking at it here, is a little bit changing, because like here right now, I can see some young married couple, and the man stays in the house when he's not working and help with the kids. But back home, it was not like that, because that was a woman's job. Um, and driving a truck was not a woman's job until I came here to see a woman driving a truck. So in the Western world, as Dr. Easy spoke, there are a lot of things that are changing and promote change for women. That once a woman has the skill set, they should be able to apply for a job. And once they're qualified, they should be able to perform that job. But the challenges that we go through, and to me, it looks like this particular job is not for a woman. If it's not a woman's job, it's a man's job. So that division of a man's job and a woman's job, when it comes to leadership, also, it's the same thing. If you apply for a corporate job and a guy apply for a corporate job, even in the Western world, one way or the other, I mean, recently things are changing a little bit in the Western world, but most of the time a man will get that job, because you know why? Because maybe you're pregnant, you have to leave. A man will not get pregnant to leave for 6 months. You would do that because you have to leave. But the project needs to go on. But thank God in the Western world, we can work from home. There are a lot of things that are changing to incorporate women. But in the developing world, I think, don't you think things are different?
Lucy, I don't know if you saw it in the program this week, but there was a pregnant lady. She was 7 months pregnant, and she was handling how do you call it, a jet for defense.
Mhm.
Can you imagine that? Seven
Oh, yeah.
months pregnant, and being the pilot for
Yeah.
defense, and that is really seen as a male job. But
Yeah.
yeah, they are women, and you can qualify yourself. But as long as women think that they can't be in the position of doing that, of
Mhm.
uh, being there, as long as that is in the mind of
In the
women
mind.
that they can't do it, we can achieve a lot when you take it out of your brains that you can't do something. That you don't want to do it is something else, but that you can't do it, I think when you're doing a lot of when you qualify yourself for things and when you really want to achieve a goal, I think you can come very far to achieve that goal.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank
Lucy,
you.
and if I say something, if I may,
Yeah, say something. Yeah.
I've been listening to what both you and Marge has been saying. It basically boils down to stereotyping. I mean, if somebody puts it in your mind, you cannot achieve this, you cannot be a lawyer, you cannot be a scientist, you cannot be an engineer because you're a woman. If you do not have if you're not strong-minded, strong-willed, you listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the beginning you introduced me as a Nigerian, I beg to differ. My late father was Nigerian, my late mother was Cuban, and I was born in Britain. I'm British by nationality. I may have a Nigerian name. Now, what I'm trying to tell you, with all this different cultural mix flowing through my veins, I'm a very determined woman.
Mm-hmm.
I do not take no for an answer. I became a lawyer despite all odds. I was a former Biafran refugee child. I remember being at school in London in the 60s and being told you can't be a lawyer because you're black, you're a female. But I was called to the Honourable Society of Gray's Inn. I'm also qualified in Nigeria. So I'm also fortunate enough that my father, despite the fact he was Nigerian, believed in the education of a girl child. I wouldn't be here today without the determination of my father, who gave me the best education. I mean, he could have said, okay, you sit at home and get married. But I've always been a determined person. And I don't believe this. You cannot become a lawyer, you cannot become an engineer because you're a woman. I really don't believe this. And there are laws to ensure now equality. A man and a woman can go to a job. And I know in the UN setting, there's a tendency to ensure that the woman gets the job. You're balancing this gender gap. And when you talk about gender, it's not just women, it's men as well. Gender includes men and women. I can go confidently for a job. I've been for jobs before. I've been interviewed. I'm the only woman there, and I got it hands down because I was capable. I do not feel threatened by a man because he's a man, and I go for a job. I'm thinking, oh, he's going to get a job. No, I'm ready for that battle. I'm ready to go for that exam, and I'll make sure I pass it. So basically, what I'm trying to say, we have to learn as women to change that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Do not walk around, oh, I'm a girl, so I must play with a doll. Oh, I'm a girl, so I should not aim to be a lawyer, a scientist, a mathematician. I should keep away from STEM qualifications because I'm supposed to do the lesser. No, it's a mindset. We have to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And we should
Yeah.
not let society box. I studied law, and next year I'll be 40 years as a lawyer. I mean, those days it was rare. It was extremely rare, especially in London, for a black woman to be a lawyer. It was extremely rare. And lots of times when I was in law school in London, I was the only woman in the class, the only black woman. And that. I remember going to Gray's Inn, which I'm a member. I was the only black woman. And I do not feel intimidated. Even at the UN today, I don't feel intimidated. Last week, I was given the humanitarian award by the New York City Bar for the work I've done for women and children. As I say, if I just conclude, it's our mindset. We've got to change that mindset. Don't let somebody tell you you cannot do something because you're a woman.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is something I want to emphasize also. When I was on elementary school, doesn't matter if you're black or white or yellow or red or I don't know what color I have, but my teacher was saying, Mario, you never going to be far in your life.
Mm.
You are never going to get high score. And guess what? He was my best motivator because I thought, you bastard, I am going to take care and I'm going to show you once in my life, I'm going to show you that I mean something and I mean something worldwide. People don't need to know my name. People don't know to know my face, but behind the scenes, I'm going to show you who I am. And you know what? I graduated with great results. I did great things in studying, but I also kept myself really down to earth with people who really showed me and learned me a lot of things. And those were the people in my projects who were street smart, who knew a lot of things. I learned a lot from them. How educated I was, how educated I am, doesn't matter. But people of all levels, I'm learning from them, and they make me strong. They make me strong. I'm working with Cindy already for a long time, with Lucy for a long time, and we have a lot of fun. We are working together, and we achieve a lot together. And that is, and I think when you are looking at leadership, we don't need to be a visible leader, but we are doing a lot and can achieve a lot, of course, and it's helping us personally also, makes us strong, isn't it?
Yes. So I'm glad that, our listeners will be listening, that, to know that it's a mindset that you can achieve anything if you have the willpower, and you set your mind on it, that you can do it. And I know that we have, in the Western world, and where we are here today, we are very fortunate to be here, and we can get what we want, especially when you prepare yourself and educate yourself and get the skill set and go for a job interview, and you have the opportunity to do that. But in the developing world, it's just a different thing. But I'm sure that this discussion will let people know that you have to make up your mind, change your mind, and know that whatever you need, just prepare yourself, because opportunities will come. And when the opportunity comes, you'll be able to present yourself, and take hold of that opportunity. Having said that, we just move quickly. We just want to say thank you, and I'm glad that Dr. Eze, you had your input. You can also ask questions if you want to. So we're going to go quickly to you, Cindy, the next speaker.
Well, I'm opening up. If I will ask everyone to please put themselves on mute, or you will get a feedback and your audio would not be so good. But I wanted to also, before I start talking, bring to bear what Dr. Easy and both Majo said. There are barriers. We are fortunate to be in advanced country or developed world. Those are facts. Okay. There are cultural barriers, there are religious barriers for us in developing nation, especially for the girl child. All right. If you look at data and statistics, it will show you there is a difference who gets educated depending on the pocket of the family, who is prioritized, who is likely to succeed, and who is actually for the leftover. Majority of the time, I think she echoes that her dad believes in educating the female child. And this is as a teacher of history, and I do well around the world, especially third world country or developing nation. Those are facts. But let's look at America a little bit. I had an opportunity this on Wednesday, International Women's Day. By the way, happy International Women's Day to all of you beautiful women on this platform, and all of you who are logging and watching, and everybody else that will watch later. To have honor, I had a distinct honor to attend an honoring program Midtown, Georgia, which is the heart and soul of the civil rights movement, the Martin Luther King, the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and Dr. Warnock and all of these people. But I had an opportunity to go see the first black woman statue goes up in Midtown, who walked shoulder to shoulder with Dr. Martin Luther King, literally almost 60 years later. She lived to be 91 years old. All right. A lot of other women have been hurt. I mean, other men have been amplified. The John Lewis. This when you tell people there's the statue unveiling downtown, they're like, but who is that? But here is the woman in every picture. She's there. Then that brings me to since the 1800, women did not have right in this country. We could not vote. We were considered property. Even after the law was passed, the 19th Amendment, it took 42 years. And then for that to be ratified, for us to vote. But I went to under that particular woman as a leader because she paved this path that gave me my voice, that gave me where I stand. And now we amplify. We have to be visible as leaders, as those who have been fortunate to have gotten and understand what it's like to know your strength and know your weaknesses because we do. So we amplify what is good about us and what we understand as our strength, and then we challenge those that challenges us, right? So when we look at the cultural barriers that says women belongs in the kitchen, women are not supposed to be hurt. Then you look at religion plays a big role all over Africa. We're supposed to be religious people. Like women, if you come from certain religion, women are not supposed to come in the front. They sit in the back. They watch the men. Their job is to, as the man says. So we look at all of these factors. How do we leapfrog our nation, developing nation? Because American women are breaking the glass ceiling, whether we like it or not. We have women that are CEO. I'm not talking about building their own company, but walk into companies like the IBM and all of these. You can see women there. All right. You see women driving truck. You see women on the highway. You see women. Those days it was women in the classroom, women as nurses, but women are MD, women are engineers. So, but we who have been given that opportunity, and I'm adding my voice to Dr. Easy and Majo, that we just don't look at the higher of the high, which is the presidency. We look at just creating little paths that we can widen. Okay, we look at doing today is technological village everywhere you can connect. I can talk to my aunt who cannot speak English. She didn't get an opportunity to go to school because from that background, my mother was the first of her generation to go to school. They weren't allowed to go to school. They married them very young. They were other people's property by default, at least they were told. So based on that, my mother said my girls will learn, they will speak up, they will make their own decision. And I do the same with my daughters. That's why when Dr. Christine spoke, and I understood how we say on our children in America because they come from three different worlds, their friends, our culture, and the country they find themselves in. So I understand that perfectly. So we can use technology. We are using technology now to connect. That Lucy said, if we can connect and create a safe space and a powerhouse, that we can also reach out beyond borders and boundaries, beyond our separate countries or individual countries, beyond our community, and empower other people and say, here we are. We may not be president or vice president, but guess what? We decided this is what we're going to do. And we did that because we were also in a place that we were opportune. Can we create that space for women? But to amplify again, so know that Clinton, who is a civil rights advocate, who advocated for me to be here, were honored, and it was unveiled. If you're in Georgia, you can go and see that. So women are making headways. Are we moving at west speed? I don't know. So I'm going to stop here because there are many of us.
Thank you so much. And um, um, I will just turn it over to Dr. Christine, if and then we'll come back for the questions.
Yes, thank you. So I like to always question the status quo. It's an interesting topic, the forgotten leaders, and the question I ask here is forgotten to who, right? Is it forgotten? Are we saying forgotten as in society forgetting women as leaders, or ourselves? And I think that I have this belief system that I can only change what I can. I'm only responsible for what I can change, and everybody else, I cannot dictate that. And so when I think about forgotten leadership, I think about myself. And I think sometimes, as women, we forget ourselves as leaders. Many a times we try to fit in leadership in the way that is prescribed in the world. We're, believe it or not, we're living in a male driven and predominant world. And so the concept that women were competing for that same the same role, we can have the same job, but it doesn't have to be executed the same way, is what I'm saying. So to dive into that, what I mean is, I can be a leader. I can still have this role, but I don't have to do it in the manner that the predecessor had. At my job right now, I got a promotion, and the way I execute my task is, I rest in my skills. I rest in my femininity. I don't try to mimic the masculinity that came with my predecessor. And I think that's one area where we fail, where we try to compete. But whether we want it or not, we were created different. That's just what it is, right? And so that notion that women were trying to, the society is trying to tell us that no, if you are to be, I don't know, a CEO, you have to be all these characteristics that align with a man. I refuse. I can be a great leader with my skills as a woman. Of forgot a woman, I'm a Christian woman, and a woman in the Bible that I always look up to her leadership is Esther. Now, again, we don't speak of Esther so much as a leader, but if you look at characteristics of a strong leader, right? Humility, great mentorship, right? Courage, as understanding who you are and what you have. In the story of Esther, for those who do not know, and I'm a Christian woman. I cannot speak without speaking about God. I'm so sorry. um, uh, and in the story of Esther, she understood who she was. She knew her identity, and her uncle made sure that she understood to keep that a secret and to use it only at a time when it will be needed. That's one characteristic of a leader. I know who I am. I know my skills. And so I use my skills, and I don't try to gain skills of the person who previously had the job, because if they needed those skills, they would have kept him in that position. But because I have my own skills, they hired me to the job. So I understand who I am, and I don't try to change who I am to match up to be like a man. I can be as a woman and still execute greatly. She understood that. She developed great courage. There's a passage, I think it's in Esther 5. They talk about, she had found out that somebody was plotting to kill her people, meaning her, and she had no choice but to step into the altar. And at that time, anybody in the temple, and any women were not allowed. You could not step into the temple, or let alone come close to the king unless invited. That was a death. That was a death sentence. And courage, she developed the courage to step forward. She did not come in there as a man. She came in there as a woman, tapping into that softness as his wife, and knowing that her husband has a soft spot for her, and gained favor in his side, and he was able to invite her to come. That needed great courage, which is something as leaders that we need to have. Because when I'm looking at a company policy, or I'm looking to implement change, I have to have the courage to speak up, right? Closed mouths don't get fed. And so Esther spoke up. She developed the courage, and she did that. That's a great leadership right there. Humility, right? There's no mention of her being arrogant, or even responding in a manner that was not, that was not dignified of her. So those are things, and I say this to say, I think there's a space where we can be as women without necessarily trying to, maybe hang out with the boys so that you can get you can get selected for or considered for a promotion, or trying to, I've seen this one too many times where women try to tap into conversations with the male group so that at their jobs, knowing fully well that they don't even relate to that, just because they're trying to be considered for a promotion. And it's such a shame, and it's a reality that a lot of women have to face. But I think that we can do this. There has to be another way. So what is the solution, right? I think that one of the major solutions is representation matters, and which is why, Miss Lucy said, having meeting other women that do well, it kind of opens up your mind. I speak, I'm very grateful, I'm privileged in this. I have great women that were examples. When I tell people my journey getting my doctorate, it was hard, but it wasn't that hard because all the women in my family have high degrees. I saw it. And so for me, it wasn't an achievement. For me, it was something that was natural because I had women in my life who served as mentors. And because I saw that, I knew that it was possible. It wasn't an achievement, it wasn't a goal, it was just the natural progression of life. But if you look at groups of women that do not have those opportunities or do not have people to look up to, then it begs the question of, well, how can you open your mind and imagine or dream what you have not seen or what you have not heard, right? Which is why I really applaud the need for iron sharpening iron, right? We need to, as women, sharpen each other, open up. As we go up, pull somebody else. And also there is that part where it's like, okay, well, if there's nobody, if there's no woman that's doing it, then develop the courage to do it. Then be the first so you can take the others forward. I'm a strong believer in giving back. I'm a strong believer at being visible and opening up my resources and opening up, sharing mentors, which is why I'm so deeply involved with the pageant and these young women, because it's because I saw it wasn't until I came here to America, believe it or not, that I saw that there's some people who they don't dream of a bigger education. Like the mind is just so little. And again, I know this is subject to my environment. Like I said, in my household, my father, my mother, my older sisters, my aunties, everybody was like achieving and going. And so for me, it's just natural. So I work hard to create that atmosphere, to create that space, to be a mentor to women so that the younger generation, so they can see and imagine it and even surpass it, and also remain humble in the process, right? Because I have seen some of these younger women surpass me and I cheer them on, right? So again, my point here is, forgotten to who are we doing a disservice to ourselves by limiting ourselves, right? Like Dr. Eze said, the mindset. It all starts in the mindset. They said the power of life and death, lives in the tongue. I paraphrased it. But again, speaking that positivity, seeing beyond, we can, the truth is, yes, we can work hard and bigger platforms to, have policies that will push the agenda forward and help break down some of these stereotypes. But the truth is, I, as a human being, I don't have control of what people think of me, but I have control over myself and how I think. And I know that I can do anything. I know that I am powerful beyond measure. And so it starts, one, with our mind, two, seeing, looking up. One of my greatest mentors, Rebecca Enoncha, a Cameroonian entrepreneur. I loved. I didn't see anybody in my immediate circle who did what she did, and I really aspired to be on her level. And so I just did my research, Googled, reached out to her, and met her one day after 5 years of following her day by day. Again, challenging myself, opening up my mind, looking out to what else is out there, right? And using my skills and opening up my mouth and proclaiming, going after what I needed. Is it easy? Absolutely not. It is not easy, but it is surely doable. So again, it starts with us. And if there's nobody else doing what you want to do, be the first. Be the first. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Christine. I'm glad, like I'm a Christian woman also, and I've read about Esther, and you are very, very privileged and very opportune to have aunties, uncles, and being a doctor is something like normal, regular. But let's look at others, younger adult like you, who have not read the Bible to look at other mentors in their life, who have not taken the opportunity to read books, because you don't necessarily have to know a doctor or someone who is the leader, or maybe knowing the president, the vice president of the United States, before you can know that you're not forgotten. But if you have not talked about Esther, someone who is not a Christian, or maybe a Christian, have not read anything about Esther, but Esther is forgotten because people don't really portray Esther. And some historical women that did, who showed us that we are walking on. In fact, who showed us this platform is on today. We don't even talk about them. So they are forgotten in the sense that not competing with men, but they are also qualified to build this country, they did other stuff. And I'm glad that you are within yourself, you're satisfied, you're competent, you can do all things because you have that mindset, and you're a Christian, because through Christ we can do all things, right? But then let's look at someone that did not have that opportunity to have a mentor. The mentors that you have is such a great deal. And some other people, also young adult, have those mentors, but they don't even go back to even think about them, or go back and receive some guidance or mentorship. Some people don't do that. But I'm glad that you're talking about it, because a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to learn from you. But let's look at someone else, a young adult that have now gone through the pathway you have gone through, reading the Bible, being a Christian woman. What do you have to say to that group?
I would say to that group that first, like I would applaud them for this is the first step. The first step is in tapping onto something that you would have never known. They clicked on this link to watch this. So kudos. That is the first step. The road to discovery is by curiosity, right? The road to discovery is by curiosity. We must be curious in order to expand our mind. So what I will say to them is rest assured you're doing the right thing. You clicked on this, you wanted to be empowered, and you clicked on this. That is the first step. Now you know six other women that do different things. We all have cell phones. Forget about TikTok, Instagram, Facebook for a minute. Go on Google and start typing. What is a career that you have not, maybe what is a career that you've heard of but you don't know what to do? Start there. Start there, and your curiosity will take you so far. I promise you, out of 20 people that you reach out to be a mentor, at least one person will respond. That I believe in. I believe in because I have seen it work in my own life and in the group of girls that I mentor. I say curiosity will help expand your mind. That's what I would say to them.
Thank you so much. Before we go to our last
So,
speaker, Gilek, do we have any? Can we mute ourselves if you're not talking? Thank you. Amy, do we have anyone on the platform that want to ask Dr. Christine any question?
I do. That's actually why I unmute myself. So, Dr. Christine, I know Dr. Easy went beyond our technological eyes and went beyond into our very areas, back into our country, up interior, and all of that. How then do we tap into or give back beyond the technology? How do we do that? And let's say you're opportune to be in America or in the developed world, and you and I both, and my girls are too. So they have technology at the fingertip, and they have parents who are also very educated, who believe a girl can be anything. But what's about other girls who come from culture that do not have those opportunities, who have never heard? I love the story about Esther, by the way. Love Esther. I use her as an example, humility, and, courage, wisdom, and all of that. She comes to all of that. And we were able to save the Israelites, by the way. So how do we, you as a younger version of us or a younger person from all of us in this generation, how do we then, because if you look at the percentage of in African country, let me just bring Nigeria, the last study, Nigeria had less than 60% literacy rate. And have like over 400 billion in budget, but 70% of our population live in extreme poverty. Liberia is another story. That's 80% of the back. So how do we tap into that? How do we extend beyond the technology? I think Dr. Easy spoke on that, how we get out and reach out to people. This is the UN We for Women. We should be out there. We should be advocating for them. What would be your suggestion?
Absolutely. I'm going to answer that question by using the example of one of the winners from our pageant, Nerida Lobo, Miss Africa USA 2016. And what she did, which an example, what I would do if I were, if I had to right now, what she did is she spoke about her platform, which was she wanted to work with, she's from Cape Verde, and she wanted to work in her country, right? To buy books and provide school supplies because there were a lot of children that were going to school without a book, without a pen, without flip flops. They were just going to school, right? And so she wanted to provide basic stuff, just pens, pencils, books. She had the skills, she had the mindset. She understood that there was a less privileged community of people in Cape Verde that did not have it. So guess what? She came on a platform like Miss Africa USA that has 70,000 viewers, spoke about her platform. What did I do? It gained momentum. Next thing you know, she's talking to the ambassador of Cape Verde. And this is an example. It could look differently for different people. She used her platform, she used her skill, she opened her mouth, talked about what she wanted to do, had a fundraising drive. We actually had some interns, girls here in the US, 14-year-old, 15-year-olds that facilitated that drive, collecting books and pens, even used books that had remaining pages in it, pencils that when you sharpen your pencil and then you're like, oh, I want to use a fresh one. They collected the leftover little things that are everywhere, because I believe in my strength is in the practical things, right? The things that I can reach. She did those, collected those, asked for got some donations, went back to Cape Verde and was able to donate that, made a huge impact. And guess what? She got invited into the president's house, the president of Cape Verde. She got invited into that, spoke about what she wanted to do, and was able to implement national programs in Cape Verde. Nerida Lobo, real person, young woman around my age group, what did she do? She understood that there was a need somewhere. She knew that she had the skills, but somebody else didn't. She understood that she was given this gift, this ability, and spoke up, made the movement, gathered people around. Somebody like me, I couldn't, I donated whatever I had, like just around my house, just donated whatever I had and went and did the impact. Now that's very grandiose, right? And that's it kind of like hits like an extreme. The moral here is talking to one or two people and believing, and she's also a woman of faith, right? And believing um would take you places that you just never would expect. But one thing that's for sure, if you make enough noise, somebody will hear it. Somebody will hear it. And it will, and there are two categories of people that can hear it: the people who can hear it to shut you up, and the people who can hear it to help you. And guess what? The people who hear it to shut you up are going to make a lot of noise. And guess what? Bring more momentum. So there's no publicity that's bad publicity, right? So that's how I can do it. That's how anybody watching us that wants to have an impact can do it. And that's a true testimony that I've seen happen of how it was done. I hope I
Yeah,
answered the question.
yeah, thank you so much. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, just look around and see what is missing and start to do something for a change and start talking and others will join you. So we are all not limited. It's just your mind. Have a vision. Look around and see what you want to do. If you're dreaming right now, just know that once you start talking about your dream, someone else is sharing that same dream. You can partner, you can network, you can collaborate, and things will happen. And that's exactly what we're doing here today on the Liberian View. And we also discussed that we, the women here and other women that we know, we can come together and do bigger things. We are not competing with the men, as Dr. Christine rightly stated, but having the same skill set, going for an interview, and being allowed to have that particular job, not only in the Western world, but also in Africa. And I always talk about the Nigerian candidate, Peter Obi. He talked about his success in the Anambra state when he was governor, serving as governor, that the individual in different skill set, that work higher skill set, when it comes to finance and everything, they were all women. So things are also changing in Africa. That one man can hire qualified women and things can happen in his state. And he left his state within the coffers. I don't know about how much, I know something million or 50 million plus something in the coffers for the next governor to take over and the state should survive. Those are the kind of men, when you look at them, you can say yes. Even though things are happening here in the Western world when it comes to giving opportunity to women, is also happening in the great nation of Nigeria. And I'm hoping that other nations also can look at it. Like, for instance, in Liberia, despite all the challenges, but our vice president is a woman. Our president, our former president, was a woman. So things are happening all over the world. Women are making strides. But I know that we're going to get there one day. And I like what you said, Christine. We are not competing with the men. But once you acquire that skill set, having education, reading, and acquiring different skill set puts you in the position to get the next step. So you have to start to do something, not just sit, do something. Having said that, without any other question, we're going to go straightly to our last speaker, Caleb.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to say a big thank you to Lucy for the Liberian View program. This is a great initiative. I also want to thank every other speaker here before me for all your valuable input for us and to as women. I want to start off with the leadership and give a big kudos to Liberia, having that first woman president there and now a vice president in especially West Africa. We would have see that day, and we did. Now, I come from Sierra Leone. My background is Sierra Leonean, and I just want to talk about two political progressive bills that have been signed by our most recent president. Now, the president before this, he couldn't give women the percentage of increase we asked for in politics, but he did approve March the 8th as a public holiday for the International Women's Day. So it's like they negotiate with us on what they can give us and what they cannot. Now, the current president, without campaigning for him, his wife, Her Excellency Fatima Bio, has the Hands of Our Girls initiative, something she has joined other first ladies of other countries to make a lot of noise about, and coming together, working together, amplifying the message, which I believe Dr. Christine talked about, amplifying that message, or the other doctor talked about, is key. Because when we look at the actions of Her Excellency Fatima Bio and how she has rallied other first ladies, this is important because as the girl child, regardless of the backgrounds we have discussed, the mentorship, the social and economic setbacks, we also have to be very blatant about one of the major setbacks, which are rape, sexual harassment. So with an initiative like the one the First Lady of Sierra Leone has started, still pushing hard to make it go global, I believe that has made a big dent in our history because it has created the opening of what we call one-stop help stations, where at a hospital, you have the police station where you can make your report and get treated right away before your offender gets off the hook. It's made a lot of difference in our community. There's definitely a lot more work to be done. And I think that's a global initiative as well that has been started. Now, with her husband as the president, can we just imagine if that would have been possible if her husband was not the president? We're talking about countries that have dealt with rape for years. We're talking about rapes of 2-month-old babies, rapes of 5-year-old girls. And I believe this happened with a loud cry of rapes of that age range when her husband took on office. Now, again, without campaigning for him, recently we were able to get signed into parliament 30%, only 30% for female women leadership. I would say only because we all know we can do better, but I believe, maybe by the next election or by the next president, we may get more. Moving away from women in politics, I want to move on to culture. I'm a minister, but I'm also very highly into entertainment. I'm a gospel singer and actress, but also the leader of the Sierra Leone Association of Artists and Musicians. And that takes me directly to entertainment and culture and being able to look at the role of the woman in that aspect. Now, when you look at it, has given me the opportunity to work with women in the movie industry, to work with women in singing, entertainment industry, not just Christian, but secular. And because I'm the leader of an organization that recognizes all talent, fine arts, etc., fashion designers, it helps me see not just in the selection of awards, but how women are marginalized, right? So one thing I think that as women, we on this platform and a lot of others are starting to do is lifting one another up, because we see a lot of instances where women pull each other down, but being able to lift one another up regardless of background, culture, or issues that they may have personally, but on a corporate level, on a public level, on a global level, being able to work as women is a very big stumbling block. A bitter pill that we all have to kind of learn to swallow. When I did initiate SLAM, the SLAM Awards, Sierra Leone Association, a lot of people told me, we're only in this because of you. And at that time, I thought, oh, because I'm a gospel singer, I'm able to do this. But over the years, I got setbacks and had to swallow that pill and recognize the good work of people who I did not necessarily care for or who I did not think their behaviors were right. But I had to, look at the facts of what they were actually doing. So in entertainment and that culture, building up women in that area, I feel like the women who find themselves in leadership, in entertainment, in cultural development, the arts, the pageantries, right? Being able to create a platform that generates respect for the careers that these women choose to go into, I believe helps greatly. I do see culturally, even in the United States, sports such as volleyball, basketball, cheerleading, they have had to fight their own battles. And scholarships, the leaders of those activities have pushed and fought and advocated and continue to advocate to a point where in cheerleading, they've created scholarships for girls, volleyball, basketball. We have the women's league as well now. And you have men coming to sit at the TVs to watch these events take place. So as women, when we get into a career or we are entrusted with the career or social activity or hobby of a girl child, I feel like whether we are already in one department or not, being able to add that voice, being able to add that strength, being able to give that support to whoever is leading is a key. And I commend you, Lucy, because this kind of platform does bring a voice to that. We're able to talk about different aspects of society for women. Going back to what a woman is, and I feel like as men, if men decide to look at a woman and ask yourself, and I'm talking to all of us now, when we're home, we hear certain common words from men such as "you talk too much," "oh, you're too fussy," or this and that. But one thing I tell men in the workplace is, if you look at a woman and identify her strengths at home, and you as a husband or as a boss, you take somebody's wife who's working in your office and put those skills to work, you will have a successful office. Many times have we seen women come in as great organizers, and not just stop there, because there came a time when women were just receptionists and administrators, but now we get to see women in the workplace as the leaders in corporate America, in in Africa, all over the world, globally. We get to see women in the corporate workplace as leaders, and being able to identify those skill sets, detail oriented, organizing, teamwork, being able to bring people together, has strengthened so many businesses globally. Moving on to a woman understanding your purpose. We, you know, speaking from the Bible, speaking as a Christian, being able to understand your purpose, because there are so many ways we can impact the world. When you empower a woman, you empower a nation. And us being able to understand our purpose, helping other people identify their purpose and put that purpose to work, you know, going into any environment you may find yourself as a woman, understanding your strength, understanding your weakness, applying the SWOT analysis, which I like to talk about a lot, to yourself, but being able to counteract your weakness with that opportunity, your weakness with that threat that's in the environment, has helped a lot of women. And I feel like when we go somewhere, we understand what inspires us, knowing your purpose, knowing your calling, understanding that it is a calling, also knowing that as women, we stand in the gap to not just pray for our children, pray for our husbands, but pray for our nations. Every political leader out there needs that woman praying for them, even if she's not your wife. When you go into the churches and you look at the women's leaders, they stand in the gap. They stand and pray for their husbands, for the men's ministry, for fellow women, and being able to support other women as a woman's leader, I believe, is a true leader. My child once told me, "I'm perfect, I'm a leader." And I said, "What makes you a leader?" "Oh, I'm good." I said, "No, that doesn't make you good. What makes you good is when, as a leader, you can look back and see the number of people that you have brought up, the number of people you have mentored, the number of people you have trained to be a leader. Then you are a successful leader." Being able to get people to accomplish a goal is one thing, but being able to teach other people, empower other people, and bring them up is another. And so, as women, I have seen the trend that it may seem we're forgotten, but the mindset, changing our mindsets, will set a precedence and will set a pace. Having platforms like this, having organizations for women, will set a pace. And what I tell the men is, when they say Father's Day, sometimes you don't notice till it's like 2 days or the week off. But when they say International Women's Day, it's all over the world. There is no peace. And this was started by one person who decided we need an International Women's Day. When they say Mother's Day, it's on all networks, it's in all countries. And us being able to also amplify and exemplify those platforms that somebody else had created for us, I believe, as women, would help the process. For those women coming up, I also say, who is your role model? A lot of women say, "Oh, I don't have a child." No, you may not have a child, but you are a mother. There is somebody out there watching you and getting something from you. I tell people sometimes, I don't need to be your friend to appreciate you or bless you, because I can like you at a distance when I see the way you empower a fellow woman. We're in a society where men, you know, sometimes they can help, sometimes they cannot. But even when they cannot, and a woman approaches them, whether it's in politics, whether it's in corporate America, whether it's in entertainment, that woman is standing the risk of her sexuality being abused or not. Not all the time, but sometimes and most times. So I always tell women, let's learn to empower each other and bring each other up. So understanding the power of a woman and understanding your voice, This is another thing that women have to be confident of. Another one of our speakers kept talking about her background. The background is so important, but then when you come to think of that child who didn't come from a family of successful women, that child who didn't come from a family of educated parents, how does that child stand up to say, I'm going to succeed regardless, no matter what the odds are? I can tell you horror stories of children who have been raped times without number, children who have been refugees. I was a refugee, who have been refugees from home to home in the United States, women who have been in foster homes but still chose to succeed, right? And I talk to my friends who connect with me and notice a connection with them and my daughter. I tell them, like, take her as your child. Whatever you will tell your child to empower her, tell her. Because as a girl child, I remember back when I was 16, 15, my mom was not the person I was going to talk to. My mom was never that person I would talk to. I was always scared of her because of our culture and what was allowed and what was not allowed. And a lot of girl children from Africa, West Africa, different countries learned a lot in the streets. And let's don't be fooled about the countries we find ourselves in. A lot of our children are learning from social media and in the streets. And I've noticed they connect with the aunts and the women who they feel they admire first and foremost, and secondly, those who, though we are older, but have that ability to connect with their age. So I always tell every woman out there, when you meet somebody's child, just deposit something, some inspiration, some mentorship in that child, because we never know who our next generation of leaders will be. And you never know if that child is looking out there for some good advice. They just need to hear good advice. They hear a lot of the wrong advice from their friends. I learned a lot from my friends that was wrong. And I always thank God that somehow I turned out right from where I stand. Maybe from where somebody else stands, I didn't. But I'm telling you, as women, we have a lot to do with our voices, and we have a lot to do with inspiring one another, uplifting one another, tapping into those organizations that are empowering women, helping them, collaborating with them, supporting them, and helping each other achieve goals. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. That was well said, Gary.
You're
And I just want to say thank you, for being here and, sharing your thoughts. And if you look around the table, the platform here, everyone talked about, almost everyone talked about inspiring one another, connecting, collaboration. And it's very important that we are here now. We have this opportunity. Our great grandparents never had, but we have it now. And it's right here in the United States or England or Canada. We're not far from one another. We're in different states in the United States, but we're so close. But it looked like we're so far apart. And what can we do to really come together on this platform and maybe just be a part of a group? And I stated earlier, Lady Kate, form a group where we have great women together, empowered women, share, collaborating and networking and helping one another to lift one another up, others' organization, and sharing. I think we need to do more of that. And my grandmother always used to tell me, sweep your house before you say somebody else's house is dirty. So it's like we can come together and empower one another and be visible and support one another's, platform or organization. And if you have resources, we can share it. So for those of you who are listening, you heard from the youngest on this platform, young adult, Dr. Christine, who've told you her story. I mean, they have a lot of different countries in Africa and individual family in different African countries, even in Europe, in the European countries all over the world that are very opportune, like Dr. Christine, most of her families. So she had people to look up to. And she allowed herself to do that because we know that we have other young adults, they have them, but they just want to do their own thing. But we have others that don't even have, as Gail stated, they don't have anyone to look up to. Some of them have not even read the Bible, as Dr. Christine made reference to that. Some of them don't have the high internet that we have. Some of them have not even seen it. So who can they look up to? But Dr. Christine, I think all of you stated here, look around where you are and see what is lacking and make something out of nothing. Like the example of the queen for 2016, Miss Africa, what she did. She saw the need that in her country, in Cape Verde, they didn't have a lot of students, some people didn't have even a pencil. And she saw the need and decided to use her platform. We all have a platform. And she used her platform. And because of that, she was able to meet the president of her country because she did something different. She saw a dot that was not connected and she connected it. So if you're listening to us, you have your questions, we know. We're going to make sure to collect those questions and we're going to send it to our speakers here. And I think I'm hoping that we'll be able to come again to bring you some information regarding how you can empower yourself and how you can reach out because someone is sitting out right behind you, right beside you that can help you. But your willingness to listen is what that matters a lot because you can have the resources, but you don't want to listen. But we're hoping that this discussion will open your eyes to know that you're important, you're empowered, and you can do anything that you want to do, anything good. So having said that, do we have any question for Gillet? Anyone on this platform that would like to make a comment or have a question? If not,
Yes. Let me say. I have a question and a statement to Gillet.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for using your voice and using your platform to empower women and children, for that matter. I think maybe the next time we'll come back, see how we get people to come from Liberia, not Liberia, but Africa as a whole has a pandemic, not pandemic, but epidemic, rip epidemic, and that kills a girl, it kills a boy, it kills any person for that matter. You might be working physically. We are war survivor, so I know what I'm speaking, what experience I'm speaking from. It takes away trust that most children will have that make them stronger, that make them challenge the status quo or challenge the environment, right? So when you take that trust away, when you take you physically they exist, but emotionally most of them are damaged, and that is an epidemic that is going on in Africa. um, Young children being forced to get married, babies as young as 12 and 13 years old. Like you rightfully said, we had a 3-day protest in 2020 where the youngest of our babies that were violated was 6 months old,
Mm.
and a 3 years old were cut with razor in her private part for an older guy to feed him. I know it's graphic, but this is our reality.
Mhm.
Um, this is something that I put my time, my life, my money into, along with a few other women, Dr. Francis Chinaway, myself, the Oxygen Project. So maybe we need to talk about the empowerment, but then also talk about our issues that's challenging us, and then the solution to that. I'm just suggesting that, but I wanted to say thank you for your voice. I think Fatuma Bill is doing a phenomenal job because she's serving girls, and she's intentional about it, and she had not rested from the day her husband took over, as you said. So what do we do who husbands are not in policy making, who do not have the gavel to do what do you call it, veto?
Mhm.
What do we do from our end? I repaired a whole school in Mangibia County 2 years ago. I raised money, repaired a whole school, but it's not for somebody to call me out. It's just what we do, what we love to do. I think I've been blessed. All of us here have been blessed to find ourselves where we find ourselves. Every little that you contribute, elevate one. I said to my mom, if I have changed one person's life, I think I would have then fulfilled mine existing on earth. But I think I've changed a lot more. So what do we do in this case with the kids? How do we approach that? How do we come together? And when do we come together? When is the right time? What would it take for us as women to come together to support one another like we are doing today and beyond here?
Right. So I always say that you don't know who I know, and I would never know who you know. Neither can I go into Liberia and tell you about Liberia. The same way you cannot come into Sierra Leone and tell me about Sierra Leone, but I choose to learn about your country. and you would choose to learn about mine. And I would come into the United States and understand their problem and learn it as well, because I'm bringing my children up in this country, right? And I would do the same for Uganda and South Africa if I choose to collaborate with them, because you need that person from that country to tell you this is our problem. But mind you, that one person would not be able to speak to the entire problems of that country. The same way our first lady could do as much as she can, but she will not be able to target every village where a child is being raped, right? And that's where we have our NGOs. I have a nonprofit organization called Save the Nation, deliberately named that way. So it gives me the ability to work with any country, especially developing countries. We help here and in African countries. But us as NGOs, as business leaders, as advocates, being able to come together when one person or one organization is targeting a region, we come together, whether it's through the fundraisers, whether it's helping each other raise the funds, get the items, open the schools, build the hospital facilities, whatever it is. But I believe that us coming together on multiple platforms, interacting with one another, definitely makes a difference. Because, for example, I had a member on my board, and she told me, I come from a village in Sierra Leone. I had never heard of the village, Makolelo. So we decided, okay, we're going to feed your village this time. We went there during COVID. We did a count before the day of the feeding, and we were able to feed every household. Now, when we went there, we brought the news people in and put a spotlight on that village. We reached out to these descendants of that village in the United States who had never communicated, some with back home. But from that one action that we took, those descendants decided to build a hospital, because the news, when they questioned the chief, realized his wife was pregnant. And when it was time for that baby, he was going to go 2 villages down, right? Another descendant said, I'm going to build a school. So down the line, here comes Save the Nation. And now we're providing supplies for schools. You best believe we're going to go back to that village and give them supplies. Another time we went, there was a boat accident, 145 people on that boat, only 45 survived. A lot of kids were crossing the water to go to school in the capital. We did our research and have been providing to those villages so that the schools are empowered enough to educate children where they are. As I speak, one of the first hospitals has been opened in those villages, and we're getting ready to help them get supplies to start providing care for their people. So, as individuals, we cannot do it. United we stand, divided we fall. They say no man is an island, and I complete that by saying every man is a piece of the continent. And only when we work together can we impact and make a better impact. A lot of times we want to do, help people want to do it individually. I started that way, and I had to keep being reminded by my board that when I work as a team, I can make a greater impact. And that goes, let's take a look at Mabio again, excellency. By reaching out to other first ladies, made a greater impact when it comes to the cry of the girl child and of our girls. And I'm telling you, one of my sisters, who's the Syrian Female Women's Association, her course in life back home is to go from church to church and deal with the wives and women of pastors who have been raped and who are beaten by their husbands. Now, mind you, you're talking men of God. It takes a big voice to make noise about that in an African. So there are so many issues out there, which if we leave our women and one another to do alone, we'll sit back and watch them being pulled down. And when I tell you governments are strong, they can pull you down, because not every man in a government is going to want to stand and talk about something which even he may be guilty of. So coming together with one voice, watching the examples of past female leaders, and being able to make that noise, make that dent, create a bigger impact globally is very important. Teamwork. Teamwork
Yeah.
makes teamwork. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I know that women, we have the skill set that we have is collaboration, whether we want to accept it or not, but it's embedded in our DNA. We love to collaborate, even though sometimes we have some challenges, like this platform, the Liberian View. I remember when COVID-19 came, we needed a lot of stuff. We needed food in Liberia. There, a lot of people, they like the orphanage, the disabled group. They didn't, the school of the blind. They didn't have food. And so by then I was president for the Liberian community, and I decided to draft something to say, we need to feed our people. But trust also is very important. We have to trust one another. So when we started the project within our Liberian community, that meaning the DC, Virginia, and Maryland, we decided to just do. I said, no, let's do it. Let's get the Union of Liberian Association together and do that. And so we presented the proposal, the budget, and everything. And people were saying, why can you use Red Cross? Partner with Red Cross. Don't partner with Liberians in Liberia because they're not straight. But how can we build that trust? How can we build that skill set? How can we build the team to work even within yourself, within your own community, within your own country, before even you can extend it? So what we did, I told them, no, we have to start trusting one another. You have to trust yourself before you can say you're going to collaborate or network with another person or another country. So we did that. And we partner with the fishermen that they brought the fish. The marketing, we dry it, because instead of you buying corned beef, luncheon meat, or siding, we did the dry fish, we did Maggie Cube. We bought everything from Liberian businesses, and we fed a lot of people. We contributed, the Liberian View also contributed, like 10 oxygen tanks. We did a lot of stuff together. So it's like trusting. You have to trust one another to start working. Not having this doubt to say, I have this skill set, I have these resources, I cannot share. That's why I really like what Marjo is doing with other countries. That's not her country, but she's working with different individuals and letting them know that you know something. There's something in you. You're already empowered, but you're not aware. And Dr. Easy said it. Your mindset. Dr. Christine also stated the same. You, Gayla, stated the same. Yes, Cindy said the mindset need to change. But for us sitting on this podium and this platform, it's easier said than done. For others, it's a difficult thing. So when we trusted those young people, young university students in Liberia, they did such a tremendous job. They gave an account of everything that needed to be done. So trust, you have to trust people. Before you collaborate, there must be a trust and respect. And women need to trust and respect one another, regardless, because everyone have their own skill set at different level. I never knew that Dr. Christine was a doctor. We attend the same church. I take her to be like a daughter. And she is such a smart person, never talked about that, who she was, the degree, nothing. Until one day, I saw a flyer and I started looking at the name. I said, it's Christine, because she's so young. And then in the church, I met her in the church. I said, Dr. Christine. She said, no, I don't like talking about it. Humility.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You humble yourself. So people easily work with Dr. Christine and every one of us here. You have to make yourself you have to be receptive.
Mm-hmm.
For us to coordinate and collaborate, we have to be receptive. We have to be also teachable. We need to be able to learn. So all those that are watching here today, I hope you've learned. Maybe you've already set in your own way. Maybe you have your own mindset as to how you think you want to do what you need to do. And sometimes just talking about something can solve a problem. Sharing your dream, not everywhere, but looking at people and then share your dream. When I needed speakers, I talk to my friends, people that I know. I have a lot of women, empowered women that have spoken with on this platform, outside of this platform. As soon as I call this person, they say this, then Dr. Eze is a good person. She worked at the international level. I've worked with Marjo. I've seen you, Gayla. So at the end of the day, when I look at myself, I say I'm blessed. I'm successful because of you. The fact that I have you on this platform, the fact that we're even discussing this kind of issue to empower somebody, to inspire someone that will watch it is what we're looking at. And I'm hoping that we will stay in contact, knowing what each and every one of us are doing and being able to support one another with the resources we have. And like you said, I cannot go to Nigeria and make a change. I cannot go to the UK and make a change. I can't go to Cameroon and make a change, but I can talk to someone on this platform that have some relationship there that we can connect and see what we can do in our each countries, and even in Europe and other countries around the world. So we need to connect, and I'm hoping that that will work. I have about a list of 50 women that have one way or the other spoken to and been on this platform that I can put together and see what can we do to, how can we sit and strategize and see what is missing, and what is missing, how can we connect the dot. And I'm hoping that those of you who are listening, or those of you that will watch this particular discourse later on, that you will learn and then also bring us some ideas, ask some questions, listen to each of the speakers, and have your question. We'll make sure that these speakers have your questions, and maybe by the grace of God, we can have something either in April or in May, this kind of discussion again. And I'm looking forward to that. I don't know whether any one of you have any other question, but if you do not have, I would really love for us to go around the table and just give our um, our last word regarding the women, the forgotten leaders, and how can you become a leader or make yourself. You don't have to, like Marja said, you don't have to be visible to say, here am I'm a leader. But you can also work at the background. Marja and myself, we've done a lot of stuff together before, and we're still working together. But at the end of the day, you're not even aware who, like you said, you don't know who I know. But through someone else, I got to know Dr. Easy. I got to know all of you here today. So I'm blessed, and I can say I am successful where I am right now. So let's go around the table and give our last word to someone who really, really need to be empowered, or maybe they feel that they're forgotten, or maybe they feel that they're nobody in their home because they are not working. They feel that what taking care of the children, driving them to school, cooking and making sure the house is clean, they feel that that's nothing because they have someone in the home that always remind them they're not doing anything. You're not bringing money in the house. You're not doing anything. You just sit here and eat my food, and all kinds of stuff going on in their mind. What are you going to, let's go around this platform to tell someone that they are not forgotten. They just need to maybe change their mindset, like Dr. Easy said. So we'll give the opportunity to Marjo to tell us, to just give a last word as we close this particular 22nd edition of this discussion.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to ask a question before we close, but
Go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry, is that okay, Miss Marjo? I have a question for
She
you and
want,
Dr. Izzy.
is that okay that she can ask you a question, Marjo?
Yeah, of course.
For,
Yeah.
Always welcome.
for Marjo and Dr. Izzy, something that I've just been burning in me to ask was, do you remember the moment? Because you're very young women. And I'm just curious to know, do you remember the moment, or maybe that moment when you said to you, when you were faced with the trajectory of where you landed, what was the biggest push for you? Like what was the biggest push? Because listening on the two different Dr. Eze just she talked about being in this classroom where she's like the only person that she's the only person that looks like her. And she spoke briefly about her father believing in the girl child education. And Marshall, you talked about just going into all these countries that I'm from Africa. I've only been to 2 countries in Africa, but just working like just in these different areas. And so do you guys remember what was that push, or what was that moment like, or what was that thing that made you just say, you know what, this is my moment, I'm going to take the trajectory? Sorry, if you can just speak briefly to that for both of you.
Would you like to tell you my moment? My moment was when I realized that I was a refugee, and when I looked around, when we landed in London in the 6th '68 from Biafra, and suddenly realizing that you're wearing secondhand clothes, other children are laughing and sneering at you, and you're being put in a box that because you're a refugee, not much is expected of you. And I remember, just Marjorie had that moment in my head, but my teacher was basically telling me that you'll amount to nothing. And I remember telling him that I will show you. And every day at the United Nations, when I press that button to speak, technically I'm giving all those who didn't believe in me, all those who told me I'll amount to nothing, I'm basically giving them all of them two fingers and saying to them, here I am. I'm making a difference in the world. I'm a game changer. And where are you?
It's my turn.
Yeah.
Yes,
Great. Thank you, Dr. Easy. I can tell you something, and I really think about it, and I don't know if it is at this moment, but I'm a person who is there and who wants to have justice for people. And justice for people, I was in touch. The first time, my first push was when I was 7 years old. We had a project on school, and it was about Dr. Easy. You believe it or not, but it was about Biafra.
wow.
And you know, of course, that was in the end 60s, beginning
Yes.
70s. And guess what? And I thought, you know what? I can work on Saturdays, and I can earn money, and this money I'm going to send to Biafra, and then those kids have money and they can eat. So that was my first real push, and I thought I am going to work. I don't know where, but I'm from a Christian family, from Catholic family, but I believe in many religions. So I'm a Christian. I was raised as a Christian, but I believe. Me and my husband, we have many times that discussion, but we believe there is a God, and which church it is, I don't know, but we believe in a God. So uh, my uncles were missionary, and they were in Papua New Guinea, and they came every 5 years back home to get new energy and meeting us again. And I love doing that work. Um, uh, as a nurse, I again I did went worldwide, and I saw victims of war crimes. But it can be any crime; it doesn't need to be a war crime. But I saw people with cut off lips, cut off noses, cut off ears, and why they could. That was a way for leaders to show them, hey, you can't talk anymore, you can't eat anymore, you can't hear anymore, and you can't do anything anymore. And guess what? We helped those ladies. And guess what? Those were victims of war and victims of crimes. And I want to have justice for those people who can't do the things like you and me and anybody. I want to be there for those people. Those were the biggest push. And guess what? God brought me in my life. I don't know how he did it, but he brought me people in my life. Like tonight, he brought me you. And I don't know why, but every time everything is coming together again. And Dr. Easy, I know about Biafra. Uh, I worked very close on human rights violations in Biafra again, and people don't know it, or people don't want to know it. But there is a genocide again, and people are getting killed, not one at a time, but many in a time. And it brings yourself to tears, because it is not right, and those people, because of suppression, never have the chance to get develop themselves and go for it. That is pushing me. And I am always so proud, and I know how strong women are, because what they did in the past, also in Nigeria, they grouped themselves, they went in white clothes, they went protesting, and those were the mama bears. And the mama bears are coming up for their children. They are coming up for everybody. They are coming up for other women to push forward. And those are the big leaders in the world. And, you know, an example for me as a big leader is Mama Teresa, Mother Teresa. You know, what a great, great woman. But I know there are so many Mama Teresas because I see them everywhere. I'm I'm so happy that I can meet them. I am so happy that I can meet you, and you are my new push again. You know, to move forward with it and to go on with it, and with other people like Mrs. Schultz, with you, Christina, with Lucy, with you, Dr. Easy. You know, it is so important, the people who you meet in your life, who's crossing your path again and is motivating you again. I'm 60 years old, and you know what? Every time I'm meeting a new push again. So I'm waiting for my next push again to move forward because I don't want to stop. My mom is 92 years old. She's very clever. She's one of my pushers, you know? Move on, do that, go for it. And yeah, your whole life long you are getting pushes in your life, but you have to see them.
Yeah, I'd like to, sorry if I may say something, I'd like to say a huge thank you to you, Marge, that as a little girl, you had this desire to help Biafrans. And it's absolutely amazing that over 50 years later, I'm actually 63, I'll be 64 this year in October, that by virtue of technology, we're able to meet. I'm sure when you had your genuine thoughts, you never believed that you'd meet a Biafran refugee child. And there's a saying in Hebrew that when you touch one life, you touch a whole generation. And I'd like to think that you touched my life and you touched generation of my daughter. God bless you and thank you.
And
Oh,
thank
that was
you, and
so
God bless
beautiful.
you all, because I love you and I respect you out of nowhere. Sierra Leone, you are deep in our hearts. I don't know. My husband is Dr. Ellen White. We respect you a lot. Liberia, we are going to be there for you forever. And you know what? Until there's justice for the people.
Yeah.
Biafra, as much as we can do, we want to be there for you. And you know what? And there is one thing I want to. I'm sorry, Nigeria. Just the elections have been there. Sierra Leone, you are going in an election. Woman, vote, 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 vote. Liberia, vote,
Yeah.
vote, vote. Go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Go, go, go.
Yeah, that is so good. Thank you so much. Because even the Liberian View, we are collaborating with groups in Liberia. We're going to be on the ground to, to educate people. We are not a political party group. We're just for Liberia, that people should see the need to vote for their country. And it's very important because when you vote for your country, you're voting for yourself and for the next generation. So that's part of the project we're going to be working on. By May, June, we'll be going to be out of here. But having said that, I just want, if there are no other questions,
I
no
have
other
one
comments,
last question.
go
Sorry.
ahead. Yes, okay.
This question is for you. Sorry, Auntie Lucy. Miss Lucy. And Mrs. Schultz. As we're talking about forgotten leaders, you know, I think there's so. For example, the movie that came out of the women that I can so ashamed that I cannot remember the title of this movie. But the first woman that worked at NASA, you know, it's like they were forgotten leaders, but then generations later there's a movie that was made to bring awareness to them. So in a way, you know, we kind of put a crown on your head, even though they never got to carry it. But again, it got put there. So can you remember moments when somebody did something that made you feel recognized, or what is it that they made? Because the drive behind this question is to so that viewers can make tiny suggestions. Maybe you cannot give them an official award, but it's something that we can do to give, forgotten leaders, women leaders in our midst, a tiny crown, right? So I want to say, Mrs. Schultz, Ms. Lucy, what is something that somebody did recently that made you feel like, okay, thank you for recognizing me in this moment, even though nobody else saw, or maybe they saw you beyond, nobody else saw what you were doing. I think you get the gist of the question, but just like really briefly, if you can just
Yeah.
share. Yeah.
Actually, Lady Kate, Lady Kate decided to honor me for the fact that what the Liberian View is doing in the community. And to me, it was amazing for someone to just who we work together, and and at the end of the day, because we're outside of the working space, and that person said, Lucy, I want to honor you. And there's another moment in my life, and when I said to myself that I can do anything, because my mom told me that I can be and I can do anything. And that's the drive that I have. And I was in my country, and as very young as I was at that time, um, being sales manager for Coca-Cola, and leading that effort, and coming to the United States, going back to school and working, and seeing young women like you, a young adult like you. The first time I got to know, I didn't even know. I mean, I'm not surprised that you're young and you're a doctor, but you don't even carry it. That's a moment for me that when I look at people, I'm like, wow. And the fact that I see also Marjo, you don't know who Marjo is and kind of resources and kind of thing that she does. The fact that through her husband, we have formed a network that I can take my phone anytime I call Marjo, hey, what are you doing? Can you come on the show? That's a moment in my life. I'm like, wow. And then lastly, when in the history of my country, for us to have a woman as a president, that also was a motivation that I can do anything, and I can be anything I want to be in my country. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Dr. Christina. Uh, I can just say that at this point in life, a lot of recognitions have come, and I truly, truly appreciate, not that I don't appreciate my people, I do. They have made, like, we had an organization called Save Sierra Leone Foundation. The leader was Patricia Thorpe, and her zeal and zest to just look at me and say, I'm going to tap into who you're going to be. I want to be there when you succeed. And what it takes for us to help you, we're going to, creating that fundraiser to launch the first album. At times when, for me, I thought that nobody knew me, those who just believed in me have really struck a chord with me. Now, the hustler spirit is something I can tell you I have from the days of college when my father wasn't able to be there for my mom and I would leave college and come down and, you know, show her how to be an entrepreneur. We would show her how to make ice, and the kids who were taken care of would go and sell it. And that was just she and I. All the other kids were in another college because, at that time, what my mom was going through in her marriage was just that bad. I would go up to college and I would braid hair till 3, 4 in the morning, come down, and we would share the resources I had. You know, even through the wars, being able to survive in any country, Guinea, Senegal, the Gambia, I thank God. But I can say that that hustling spirit, it helped. Here and most recently, other people from other countries who have recognized me have reached my heart because there are times when our own will leave you and not give you that help you need. On March 2020, God just blessed me beyond anything I ever imagined at my second album launch after 11 years, just because I was a young mom when the last album was launched. I couldn't travel much. A team came, a team that I had worked with in the past, helped. I just helped them and walked away. I didn't ask for money. I didn't ask for anything. I went above and beyond in so many ways, not just with them, but with multiple people in my community. But a lot of times, just thank you is something we don't know how to do. And they asked my permission to come to my event, and they presented me with the US President Lifetime Achievement Award. I can say that God intervened because I always tell people this: if you don't believe in him, look at me and believe, because from that day, everything I was chasing, a lot of things have started chasing me. Meeting somebody like my Liberian sisters, Annie, we have worked together for years, being a goodwill ambassador for their organizations, and what they do is just unbelievable. But if I believe that if you can make an impact in your community and also make an impact in someone else's community, and that person acknowledges that, that is like heartwarming enough. But for them to be able in their own unique way to say thank you has always touched my heart. And a question somebody asked, we know we can trust and work together. In life, not everybody can be trusted. We all know that. But one thing I do carry with me is that a lot of times I'm less concerned about whether you're trustable. What I choose to find out the minute I meet person is everyone will tell you the good side about them, but not everybody will show you the bad side. And I'm always eager to know the bad side, whether it's from you or whether it's through experiencing it, because once you understand the bad habit or the setback or the thing that you may not like about a person, that is not something you use to not work with the person. An approach I use is understanding each person and knowing their strength and their weakness and their shortcomings, and being able to give them what brings them out. For example, if that person is a talker, I use you when it's time to talk. If that person is an organizer, we're going to work with you when it's time to organize, versus giving one person everything. But being able to understand people's shortcomings and their strengths has helped me to work with everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think time is fast spent. I just want for us to spend a minute each just to give a word, summary or synopsis of what you expect for people to take away from this discussion. So we'll start quickly with, we'll start with Marjo first, and then we'll go to Dr. Izzy, and then Gillette, and then the last will come from Dr. Christine.
I want to thank everybody for the great words, for the lessons I learned today again, and for meeting you. And I hope our paths are crossing again somewhere, somehow.
Okay. Dr. Izzy?
I'd like to again say a huge thank you for giving me this opportunity, and also to sort of summarize very quickly to remind us all that digital rights are women's rights, and that there's a need that we need to support groups, women and girls in developing countries, to catch up with emerging scientific, technological and innovative transformations which are happening. And also we need to help them improve access for researchers and scientists in developing countries. We need to stand behind our sisters and daughters in developing countries and learn to share ideas and be mentors to them, and above all be partners. Partnership is hugely important. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Gillette?
Thank you. I want to thank Lucy for this platform. I want to thank everyone here today. And again, I would be the future. I want to remind us all that united we stand, divided we fall. And also, as women, we are role models. Let's keep empowering one another. Thank you.
Dr. Christine?
I'd like to remind people to open up your mouth and speak about it. You don't have to know how, you don't have to know who, you don't have to know when. All you have to do is open up your mouth and speak, and I promise you it will flow. It will flow.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you to you all, for all our speakers. We want to say thank you for a job well done. Those who will be watching from Facebook or YouTube, please note that you can leave your email addresses, your information, and we will respond to you for the next time. For today, this is the end of the program. We want to say thank you for watching with us, and thank you all, the speakers. God bless.
Thank
Thank
you.